You're listening to episode 11 of Break Into Code, where we educate and motivate you to pursue coding, because changing careers should be exciting, not intimidating. Hello, my name is Kristen Leek, and today I have my friend Ashley Morgan here with me today. Ashley is a former developer turned UI and web designer with some graphic design chops. She has a degree in journalism and multimedia from UNC Chapel Hill. And today she works at New Media Campaigns in Chapel Hill as well. But she works remotely here in Charlotte. Ashley is married to Josh Morgan, and they have 2 adorable Italian greyhounds and a flock of chickens. But before we get started, I am going to do my usual shout out to Huga. Huga, thank you so much for choosing me as your podcast resident. This podcast, and especially this amazing sound quality, would not be possible without your help. So thanks again, Garrett. And Ashley, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Hi, Kristen.
Hey.
I'm very excited. This is my first podcast interview. So.
Yay.
Also a little nervous.
Don't be. First, I really want to hear about your chickens.
My chickens, yes. Everyone wants to hear about those. It's really funny. That's like the one thing everyone remembers about me. I've got 5 showgirl or silky chickens, and they're like little poof balls. I think you've probably seen some photos. I tend to overshare pictures of them.
I saw the Instagram.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They also have their own Instagram. I don't really post on it, but if you look up the hashtag Morgan Chicks on Instagram, you can see everything. Yeah. Yeah. They're a lot of fun. We get a lot of eggs. I forgot to collect them the last couple days, and I went in and had like 20 eggs this morning. It was a little too much.
Wow.
Yeah.
They make lots of crepes and omelets.
Oh, I should be. A lot of omelets. We make a lot of omelets.
Mm-hmm.
I feed a lot to my dogs just because we have so many. But
oh, that's so cool. I didn't know dogs ate eggs.
Yeah. They'll eat anything.
So what have you been up to at the New Media Campaigns?
New Media Campaigns, I am a senior designer there. I've been there for almost 6 years.
Wow.
So been there for a while now. We work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of universities. I was just working on something for UNC today, which is really exciting because that's where I went. So it's always a lot of fun.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And you started as a developer, correct?
I did. I started as a front-end developer.
How did you do that transition? How did that pan out?
It worked out well in my favor. When I went to school, I actually learned ActionScript or Flash programming.
ActionScript.
Yes.
I remember Flash.
Yes. So ActionScript is just programming for Flash.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all dead now. So so it was kind of all useless, but kind of in learning that, I picked up on a lot of front-end skills. So I learned JavaScript pretty easily after that, and I'd done an internship where I did some HTML work and building front-end websites. So I started as a front-end developer, and probably for about 2 years I did development. And more and more, I'm trying to think of when the final moment was that I switched to design, probably around 2013. So I started working in 2011, and 2013 I completely switched into design.
Was that by choice?
Definitely by choice. So I do like development. I still kept up with it for quite a while, especially with freelance projects and things like that. But definitely my interest was always more in design. And I think I just started progressing a lot more the more I did it, and kind of focusing less on the development side. And at some point, I was designing a site, and I couldn't build it myself. I had to pass it off to another team member.
Okay.
So that was kind of the final point where I was like, I need to just be designing all the time and not doing any of this front-end work.
Okay, so you're juggling both.
Yes, I was juggling both for a long time. My work was really nice in that they let me try this out. And basically, any site I designed, I was building. So for a good 6 months, I was probably doing that.
Okay. Man, gosh, doing both, I can see that being difficult because you look at things differently as a developer and a designer.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely do. You definitely have that like left side brain going for one and right side on the other. Um, and you do some design and development yourself, so you kind of have to focus on this all the time and
Mm-hmm.
keep learning new things. And at a certain point, I just couldn't keep up with the development side. So
I can totally understand.
yeah,
And I was checking out your Dribble account.
yes.
Killer. I
Thank
love your
you.
stuff.
I'm really bad at updating it.
But I mean, you have a lot of solid work on there.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did you get a Dribble invite? Because I know a lot of people are trying to get invites, especially newbies.
Oh, yeah. And I think I actually have an invite or two. So if anyone wants one, you'll have to get at me. I'll have to have Kristen share my handle at the end. I actually got invited through one of my coworkers, Lenny Terenzi. He owns the studio Hey Monkey Design. We work really closely together on a lot of projects. And he was gracious enough to give me an invite early on. So I've been on there for a while now. So
That's really cool. I've
yeah.
heard some people sell their Dribble invites.
Oh man,
Yeah.
no, that's I don't know if I believe in that. They're free. Yeah, I definitely have just given them away in the past.
Well, good. You are a good person. Do you have any favorite projects that you've done?
Oh yeah. I love to run. And so one of my favorite projects, we got to design and build out an e-commerce site for the store Fleet Feet. I'm not sure if you've heard it. It's a national franchise. They've got two in the Charlotte area, and they're headquartered in Carborough, which is where my company is. So I worked really closely with them, and I'd done a lot of things with Fleet Feet. I used to do this running group with them, and I would be a running mentor to do these different programs. And I bought all my running shoes from them. So I had a really close relationship with that store. So it was really cool to be able to design their online experience. And kind of with that, we've gotten to do all this other cool stuff, like design a template for all of their franchise stores. And we did a little in-store app for when customers come in and they maybe want to order something from the online shop. So a lot of really cool stuff. Oh man, there's a lot of favorites. I have a lot of cool stuff that I get to do, and I'm really grateful for it. We recently launched a new site for the town of Pinehurst. It's called homeofgolf.com. It's a tourism site.
Wait. So for the entire town?
It's actually the entire area. So when I say town of Pinehurst, I'm leaving out some towns I know. It's like Pinehurst, Southern Aberdeen.
That's huge, though.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Wow.
So it's their economic development site. It's actually called Home of Golf. But it's to kind of tell tourists what they can do, how to visit and plan out their visits for that whole area. And if you're not from North Carolina, that's a really big travel area. That's where they do like these big golf tournaments every year. So that was my first kind of travel site that I ever got to work on, and that was a lot of fun. We had really great content to work with and great big fancy photos that were really nice. So
did you work on a big team or was it small?
So our agency is only 15 people, so we're pretty small.
Okay.
And kind of for every project, we have a project manager, one designer, so that'll be me or my coworker Shannon, and then a developer, potentially two developers on the project. So yeah, it's really just about 3 to 4 people on each team, which is really nice.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges that you've had so far?
Oh, challenges.
Whether it's with the client or just with designing.
I think something big. So something we didn't talk about earlier. When I was hired as a developer, we didn't have any designers at our agency.
What?
Yeah. So we had always contracted things out, or I'd mentioned my friend Lenny earlier.
Okay.
And so we would contract with him to do design work. But everything was always done by another agency or someone that was freelancing. So when I started, I was really the first designer at my company. So kind of from there, we've just had to learn and totally create a process from the ground up. And that's been really fun, but sometimes it's a challenge because we're like, oh, are we doing this right? Would this have been easier if I was somewhere with someone above me who had already kind of paved that ground? But overall, it's been pretty fun. And yeah, working with clients can always be a bit of a challenge, right? 'Cause sometimes you'll butt heads. I'll definitely have an idea of how a design should go, and it ends up going some other different way because the client doesn't think it'll work from them. But generally, over time, I've gotten better at communicating why I think a design works to clients. So that's been a big learning process, but I think I'm getting better every time.
Have you heard of Mike Montero?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I saw his YouTube videos, especially that F you, give me my money for freelancers. And then he has some other ones about how to sell your clients on an idea.
It's totally important. I think he can be a little harsh, but
oh yeah, he definitely is.
But I totally agree with the kind of sentiments that he's shouting about. Yeah, it's definitely all about communicating. And when I was first starting into designing websites, I was definitely very unsure of myself. And so when a client would come back and say, I just want to change this, I would just automatically do that. But as I've gotten better, I've learned, kind of why I've made these decisions from the get-go. And I can pitch that better to the client. And we end up with either a happier compromise or going with what I initially proposed. So
I can definitely relate. As I have been doing freelance, gosh, I'm approaching almost a year of doing freelance.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So
oh
exciting.
My gosh, it flew by. But I was in similar shoes where my client wanted an elegant website. And she told me she wasn't really happy with the font that I chose, and she wanted something that was cursive.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I was thinking, heck no. Why am I going to, you can't have your entire, like all your paragraphs in cursive. That's, well. So, I mean, I didn't tell her that, but I ended up just, I looked for font that had little, the feet.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
The little serif font.
Yeah. Yes. Serif. And I convinced her to go in that direction.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, and sometimes just showing a client, this can go both ways. So I don't always pitch this as an idea, but sometimes just showing them how something will look in their decision versus how you think it would look best. Mm-hmm. That can be a good way to go. So showing them, a paragraph in cursive, how that's not readable.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You're like giving them different options.
Yeah.
So they can see.
I don't always agree with it because sometimes they will choose the worst option. You never know. So you kind of got to pick and choose when to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've definitely had clients who they will ask me to change something, change the color to green, and then I show it to them in green. Oh, I don't like that anymore. Right. Let's try this.
Yes. Yep, I know exactly how that is. So yeah, over time I've just gotten better at saying, oh, hey, I chose blue for this reason, and this is why we're not using green or another color. So, yeah.
Do you use any resources to help with that, like with communicating as a designer, or do you have any blogs that you really enjoy that you've learned from, or any books?
Oh, yeah. Well, so resources, we've just started doing this at my company. It's not really a resource. Everyone can do it, but it's not really anything online. But just doing a quick call with my project manager when I'm giving them my mock-up to go to the client, to just kind of go over and tell them, hey, this is why I did all of this. Before, I was just we use Basecamp to kind of manage all of our files. And before, I would just write up a couple bullets of notes for each design, and really that just wasn't in-depth enough, and it wasn't really sharing the excitement I had for certain elements in a design with a project manager. So then when they were doing a presentation to the client, they just didn't know, why, if a client pushed back on something, why it shouldn't be that way. So now we're doing a quick call, and I can explain exactly why I did these things. So then the project manager is more excited about it when they're presenting, and it's more likely to get approved.
So it wasn't coming across clearly just through bullet points?
Yeah. I think just doing a few notes wasn't enough.
Okay.
An email basically, is
Mhm.
never as exciting as talking to
Good
somebody in
point.
person.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful so far. We also occasionally use something called Marvel. It's really similar to InVision.
Oh, I have heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just a prototyping tool. So typically, we're breaking up the design process in a lot of steps, but when we're doing things like custom apps that need to show multiple screens, we'll use that to show how something flows, and that really helps the client see how something's going to work in action. So,
Yeah, they can visualize that.
yes. So that's always really helpful.
Those are really good tips.
Yeah. And let's see, blogs. I'm constantly reading blogs, so it's hard for me to pick and choose. I love Dribble's blog. I think it's called Timeout.
I didn't even know they
Don't
had a
quote me.
blog.
They do, and they do these interviews, and they're really inspirational and nice. Smashing Magazine's a favorite of mine. They do these long depth articles. Those are probably my two favorites that I've been reading most recently.
And it just popped in my head. Have you heard of, is it Webflow at all?
I have not.
Okay, some of my favorite designers on YouTube have started to use Webflow instead of coding. I haven't checked it out yet, but figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out myself.
Yeah, I thought of it when you mentioned Marvel. So.
Yeah, we don't do enough prototyping. That's really something I would like to start doing more. So whether that's through InVision, or I know Adobe's coming out with their own UI design program. They've got it in beta now, XD, or
I
Experience
actually
Design.
really like XD.
You do?
I may have told you.
That's right. Yes.
It's easy for beginners, and they're slowly adding new functionality.
Yes.
So it's,
Yeah, that's great. And I know that they're going to have prototyping kind of built into that.
They do.
So.
I played with it. It's neat.
Cool. I need to play around with it. I've been way behind. We use Sketch. And
it's super similar. Obviously, Sketch is far ahead with more functionality, but yeah, you can easily get it.
Yeah, I think when I very first played around with XD, it was just not there, and I was like, well, I'm not going to use this until it's finished, but I should really start playing around with it more.
Cool. Yeah, I recommend it. There's also, I don't know if you watch YouTube. I'm a huge YouTuber, but
I need to start watching it more now that I know you're doing all of these things on there. I haven't gotten into the huge YouTube craze. I mean, I'll watch the occasional tutorial, but I need to start watching more vlogs and things like that.
I love watching speed designs. And that's something I would love to see a speed design of your work, actually.
Yeah, that would be really cool to put together.
Yeah, I see, what is he called? Is it Dansky? On YouTube does speed designs and tutorials, and it's just like, he obviously records himself designing, and then he'll just fast forward it.
Yeah.
And add some fun music to it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll definitely, that would be something so easy to put together. Maybe
Yeah, just don't
think about doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I forgot my other questions.
No, it's fine. Now you can just cut this part.
Yeah.
The good thing about editing.
Oh my gosh. So you founded a couple of meetups, right?
I did. Yes.
Tell me about them. Which ones?
Sure. So I started Dine and Draw CLT here, which I actually just passed off a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm really sad about it. But that was the first one I started, and I got super into it. I love meetups. I don't know if you go to many. Do you go to many here?
I try to. Yeah, I go to the FrontEnd one.
Oh, nice.
The UX one.
Perfect. Yeah, those are great ones. So you mentioned at the beginning how I work remotely. So when I first moved here, I was getting super stir crazy. There weren't really any co-working spaces around, and so I was just working at home in this really small apartment we've moved in, and my husband was working kind of this job where he had a lot of manual labor, and he'd get home, he'd have to wake up early, he'd get home, and I'd be like, let's go do something, and he's like, no, I need to rest. So I had to find something to go out and do. And so meetups have been a huge help with working remotely and staying on top of skills too. So Dine and Draw was actually modeled after, I mean, there's a million Dine and Draws all around the nation.
Of it. So
yeah, it's so funny how many people I meet.
You get together and sketch while eating at a
restaurant?
Yes,
I mean, that's really the premise of it. So my friend Lenny, I'm talking about him constantly, but he's awesome. I'll have him come interview with you. He started one through AIGA Raleigh. So there's a Raleigh-Durham chapter. That's where I was living before I moved to Charlotte. I really loved it. So yeah, all you do is we go once a month to a restaurant and sketch for a few hours. And I would generally try to bring in some sort of speaker or someone to share something with the group, just because, that would make it a little more beneficial for everybody. I found a lot of times people would show up and be like, what did we draw? Like, why are we here? But it was just a great way to get off the computer screen and kind of get back to these design fundamentals that I'd lost. I used to draw all the time as a kid and even through college, and then kind of once I graduated and got a job working on the computer, I totally stopped. So that's been great, especially because I try to do a lot of illustration work for my web designs. It's been really helpful to be able to sketch again.
So nice.
Yeah.
And you're teaching classes for that, the Adobe Illustrator classes.
I do, yes. I actually teach them at Huga most of the time.
Go Huga!
Yeah. It's been awesome. It's through Skill Pop. So what those are pop-up classes in the community, and they're on all different topics from like cross-stitching and calligraphy, but I get to do some Adobe Illustrator classes, which are really, really fun. I just taught one 2 nights ago. So
was that the intermediate one?
Yes. Yep. So I do a basic and an intermediate one right now. Hopefully we'll do an advanced at some point. But
do you have many people in the intermediate one? Or is it mostly beginners?
I have a lot of beginners. The beginner class usually sells out, which is always really exciting. A lot of people want to learn it, and I think sometimes they're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to learn this after going through it. They're like, oh, this is way different than I thought. But we generally have a pretty full intermediate class as well. We don't do it quite as often, but yeah.
That's so awesome.
But I should also mention I do one other meetup, which is probably more in this podcast alley. I do the Charlotte Design Meetup with Berman, actually, who you've interviewed.
Yeah, he was on the last interview.
And he also organizes the FrontEnd and the UX meetup, so they're all really good. But we just bring in someone every month to either speak or give a workshop on something web design related.
Yeah, and you guys you always have a packed room too.
Yeah, it gets pretty full, which is good. I mean, we started this because there was nothing else like it in Charlotte, even though it was 2016, which is pretty crazy.
Wait, that's when you started?
Yeah, we haven't even been going a year in April, I think. I think April was our first meetup.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, good.
Yeah, so people are enjoying it, which is really good.
And out of curiosity, why did you decide to pass off draw and dine?
Dine and draw. Yes.
Did you just need more time to focus on your own skills, or?
Definitely, 100%. I kind of booked myself up a lot last year. I was really trying to get into this community building side and teaching side, which is really important to me, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But at the end of the day, I have all these side projects I want to work on, and I just don't have time for them. So I had to let something go. I'd gotten into the habit of drawing again, which is kind of fulfilling what Dine and Draw was for me, to kind of get into that habit and not feel so nervous to open up a sketchbook and start drawing. And I found 2 really great people actually through my Charlotte Design meetup, who took it over, and they're still running it. So I can still go to it. So it's not gone forever, which is good.
Yeah.
But I just don't have to plan it out.
Definitely. Well, good for you on doing that. I know it's
Yeah.
really hard. And I saw on your blog about your goals for 2017.
Yes.
And I guess that was a part of it, just doing more of your passion projects.
Yes.
Do you have any passion projects you like to share?
Oh, sure. So I've really been trying to get into doing more branding work.
Okay.
So I know that's funny. I do a lot of web design, and I'm like, let me do more logos. But um, that's been something big my company has been trying to add in recently. We actually did our first official branding project over the last couple months, and it was a lot of fun. Um, Before that, when we would do logos, we'd kind of just set out a few hours and quickly try to throw out a couple options. And I wasn't having fun with it, and it was just because we didn't have the right process set up. So we really sat down and we came up with a huge process on what we're going to talk about with their clients at the kickoff meeting and what kind of questions we need to ask them and kind of how our design is going to go through. And at the end of the day, having a well thought out brand just helps make the website looks tons better, 100% better. I'm sure oftentimes you get a website and the logos or the color palette just looks terrible, and you're like, how am I supposed to make something good out of this?
Definitely. I often recommend my friends who's a freelance graphic designer. I'm like, hey, have you thought about, updating your logo? And then
Yep.
I'll try to help him out, but also
Right.
it helps out the client as well in the end.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so not only am I trying to do that full time, I've been trying to do a lot of that on the side as well, just to get better at it. So I've been branding a lot of friends' projects. I did a project for Garrett recently, actually, of Huga.
Which one?
Oh, I don't think he's released it yet. I think we have to keep it secret.
No.
Yes, I know. We'll have to hassle him about it after this. I did a logo for another podcast called the Margarita Confessionals, which is a dating podcast.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. And I've just been trading, like I traded one friend a logo for some headshots. So just trying to get practice in wherever I can. And if I don't have the time for it, I can't keep getting better at it. So really been trying to make time.
And so at your job, are you still the only designer?
I am not. We have another designer.
I was about to say.
Yeah, no, it would be so much work. Shannon is another awesome designer that works with me. I think she's been there about 2 years now, so it's been awesome. And then we still contract out Lenny as well, so it's kind of like we've got a team of 3.
Yeah, that's really good. That's solid. Do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to also learn design?
Oh, yeah. Don't get too frustrated in the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started out, especially coming from development, which is so different, I was spending just tons and tons of hours on a design, and it wasn't even coming out as great as I thought I could make it. So don't get too frustrated by it. Walking away from your design for a little bit of time, taking a break is a huge help. So kind of building off of what I was saying before, I would go home from work and keep working all night on a design. I was just sinking in too many hours trying to make everything perfect. And really, I've definitely learned to stop at 5, 6 o'clock, spend some time away from the computer, and then come back with fresh eyes the next morning. And that way I can kind of definitely see what things are working, what's not working, so much easier than I could at midnight after I've been working on something all day. So
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Where do you get your inspiration when you're practicing?
Oh, all over the place. Dribble's huge inspiration. Just looking at friends' work and people I admire. Always, I see something, I'm like, oh, I would have never thought to do that. That's so cool. Behance is another one I'm always looking at. There's a few gallery sites I love to look at. The Best Designs and Site Inspire are both really good ones. Web galleries.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are all kind of a double-edged sword because I found like spending too much time on those sites can be really, it can take a lot of time away from your own work, and you can kind of fall down this hole of like, oh, I'm not going to make something this good. Why should I even try it? Or it's already been done. So I try not to spend too much time looking at all of those. I also just get inspiration just from taking a walk around my neighborhood. Looking at fine art is a big thing that I've been trying to do more recently because you get all these ideas of how things can be laid out. And
Oh, I never thought about that.
yeah, so
Wow. Those are really good tips.
yeah,
I definitely noticed that I pay a lot more attention to UI design and looking at apps and things, and it
yes,
inspires me as well. Or I think, oh, I see what they did there,
yep, yeah. Yeah, it's always good. I definitely try to look at those things often just to see what other people are doing, and you'll get some really cool ideas from them. So,
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
yeah, thank you. This was so much fun.
Do you have I don't know, a Twitter or Facebook that people can reach out to you?
I do. So on Twitter and Instagram, I am Henhouse Design, but it's Henhouse and then DSGN. So design spelled a little bit weird. I'll have to send it to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in
All
the
the
show
good
notes.
handles are taken.
I know, it's almost impossible now.
I know. I feel so bad for everybody coming up. I'm like, what are they gonna have?
And I went to, what is it called? Pitch Breakfast. Have you been?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, for those who don't know, Pitch Breakfast is where entrepreneurs or just people who have a business idea or concept will pitch their idea to a panel, and then they will kind of give feedback or just other suggestions about how they can make it better, or if it's really something they should move forward with. And so I went to a pitch breakfast one morning, and this guy was pitching this company idea that's going to help entrepreneurs get paired with their domain name, because domains are getting really expensive, like thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And geez,
What a good idea.
yeah. It's just crazy. I think we're already at that point where you can't find what you're looking for.
Oh, I know. It's so hard. I recently did a rebrand of myself, which I haven't finished everything. I definitely haven't done my website or all that.
Is this on Henhouse or a separate website?
So Henhouse is the rebrand. Before I was using Ashley Bennett, which is my maiden name, and so I got married, and I never even had the full Ashley Bennett in any of my handles or emails or anything, so that was always really confusing. And then I got married and changed my name, and that's been super confusing. So I decided to drop the name altogether, and it was a big ordeal trying to find a domain that I could have, complete words in and all of that. So,
well, I will definitely put it in the show notes.
well, thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Kristen.